Hi, I have another story for us today. This is another Candace Fleming story. It's called Cubs in the Tub. This is a true story of the Bronx Zoo's first woman zookeeper. So this is based on a real person and real things that really did happen. The illustrator is Julie Downing. Okay, that is a different illustrator than the Papa's Mechanical Fish story that we read earlier. So this is Cubs in the Tub. Does that sound funny? Would you put a cub in your tub? And so you can see maybe what the cub is. It looks like maybe it's a tiger cub. Cubs in the Tub. Helen and Fred Martini longed for a baby. They longed for one. That means they really wanted one. A baby to bottle feed and burp. A baby to rock and soothe and croon lullabies too. A baby to love with all their heart. Every morning, Fred went off to his job at the Bronx Zoo. Helen stayed at home to dream and plan. But still, there was no baby until Helen had never held a baby lion cub before. A lion cub, much less cared for one. Still, she took the baby in her arms. He was tiny, so newly born his eyes were still closed. Just do for him what you would do for a human baby. Why isn't he with his mother? So it looks like he brought a baby home. Fred explained the mother lion had lost the instincts to take care of her baby. She wouldn't feed him. She wouldn't clean him. She refused to even look at him. Helen cradled the baby close. She marveled at the tiny buds of his ears and the tender pink undersides of his toes. MacArthur. I shall name you MacArthur. The first thing MacArthur needed was a bath. Good thing Helen had a baby tub. She sang a lullaby as she sponged his fur. Soon he was as fluffy and soft as a lamb. MacArthur gave a husky cry. Good thing she had those baby bottles and all those cans of formula milk. MacArthur slurped. Then, a gentle pat on his back brought up the bubbles in his belly. With a sigh, the baby snuggled his downy head into the curve of Helen's neck. His sweet breath warmed her skin. Tiptoeing to the crib, good thing she had one, she tucked him in, curling his little legs beneath him. MacArthur dreamed. Looks like we have a scrapbook here. Scrapbook was one of our spelling words. And grew. Helen kept a record of his first. A soft blue. On their 11th day together, MacArthur opened his eyes. They must be blue. On their 15th day together, he got his first tooth, a needle-sharp incisor. And on their 21st day together, he took his first stumbling steps. A great day. Soon MacArthur was pouncing at Helen's ankles, chewing on Fred's boots, and leaping into their laps whenever either of them sat. What joy it was to have a baby in the house. But when MacArthur was 2 months old, officials decided to send him to a zoo in another city. Helen held her baby close until the car came and tried to smile as MacArthur was driven away. Because can you keep a lion in your house? Probably not a good idea. Then she folded up the baby blankets, stowed tub, crib, and bottles, and sank into the rocking chair with empty arms and empty lap. You can see the illustrators giving you a sad feeling with the weather and with the dark. Gray day followed gray day until Helen stroked the babies, so cold, so thin, so still. They're in a pretty bad way. Looks like he brought home some more animals. Good thing she had a heating pad. She slipped it beneath their tiny bottles and turned it to high. Then she mixed a batch of warm formula and squeezed it into their mouths. Drip, drop, drip. 1, 2, 3 babies began to wiggle, the kitchen filled with the faint chorus of high-pitched cries. She named them Ranganji, Dhaka, and Rajpur. These look like tigers. And once they started eating, they could not stop. Every 3 hours, around the clock. Good thing Helen and Fred to help with those 2 a.m. feedings. By the end of the first week, the babies had doubled their weight to 4 pounds. If they doubled their weight and are 4 pounds, what were they before? Half of 4 is 2 pounds. Days passed. Blue eyes opened and folded ears perked up. Little teeth poked through pink gums. Personalities appeared, their characteristic traits. Ranganji cried whenever Helen put him down, and bit and scratched when he didn't get his way. Dhaka was forever boxing her brother's face with her fat little paws and rolling on top of them and pinning them down. Rajpur liked to sleep. Good-naturedly, he accepted whatever came his way, especially food. So they all are very different. This is a cool illustration. You can see inside the house. Helen let them get away with all sorts of mischief. They romped and tumbled. They snuggled and purred. What a joy it was to have 3 babies in the house. Looks like they're causing all kinds of trouble. But when they were 3 months old, it's time for the cubs to return to the zoo. Not without me this time. She's got her hands on her hips. When the car came for them, Helen climbed in. Her babies needed her. At the zoo, she turned the glass-paneled cage into a cozy home. Blankets, bottles, boxes of toys. Good thing Helen brought them all. Then peeking around the partition, she watched her babies play. She called them back for naps and snacks and cuddles. That night, when the visitors left the zoo, the cubs sensed that Helen was leaving too. Rananji cried. Dhaka clung to her ankles, and Rajpur scrambled up into Helen's arms and wrapped her paws around her neck. Refusing to stay in their cribs, the 3 struggled to sleep. It was midnight before Helen finally tiptoed home. In her own bed, she tossed and turned. She imagined she heard her babies crying, and at first light, she rushed back to the zoo. Her little ones were still curled up fast asleep. She kissed 1, 2, 3 sleepy cubs awake. Then it was bottles, baths, and time to play. Day followed day. No one noticed Helen, so no one told her to go home. Helen began to dream and plan. Is there an empty room around? I think she wants to stay. Fred showed her the storeroom. In secret, and between bottles and baths, Helen cleaned and painted and decorated and created a nursery. Good thing Helen had all that baby equipment. That first night, the babies sniffed at the pink ceiling and pale blue walls, the ruffled curtains, the cribs and toys, and then snuggled close to Helen, and they purred. Now the cubs spent their days in the glass-paneled cage, but they spent their nights with Helen in the nursery. News of the nursery reached the zoo officials. They stormed through the door and stopped dead in their tracks. Helen raised her chin. My babies need me. The officials looked at one another. So they do, agreed Mr. Crandall, the zoo curator, and he offered her a job of keeper of the nursery. Helen was delighted and surprised. Only men had held zookeeper jobs until now. Helen had mothered her way into becoming the first woman zookeeper at the Bronx Zoo. She and her nursery stayed. The babies grew, too big for laps, too big for cribs, too big for the nursery, because the nursery is meant for babies. Officials moved them to a larger outdoor enclosure without Helen. They worried the 10-month-old tigers would hurt her. Nonsense. Even though they were twice her size, Helen argued, they still run to me for protection and comfort. I think they think she's their mother. But zoo officials were firm. Helen would never again be allowed to enter the tiger's cage. Pressed against the outside of the bars, her arms felt empty. But not for long. What a happy zoo family. So looks like she found new animals to take care of. And here at the back is a little bit of history about Helen Martini. She really was a real person. She really did become the first Bronx Zoo woman zookeeper. The Bronx Zoo is a real zoo. It says in 1944. So, very neat story. Well, thanks for listening. And keep reading. And I shall see you sometime soon. All right, have a great day.